And now I'm really curious about how we can best create a lesson for me today that will scaffold the concepts that you're doing with jazz chording. So we're shifting away from the right hand now, and I'm thinking we're going over here.
Okay.
And would you mind having a template to start out with that's a basic like 12-bar blues in G? Something really silly.
12-bar blues is G. Now that might be tough because those changes are key changes when you play jazz.
Okay.
But I can show you all the chords in a key, and maybe that will help.
Can I give you a template that we could work from that I will understand? Otherwise, it's going to go over my head really quick. So the template would be something like if you were to jazz up this. Here's G, C, back to 1. Here's F4. Just like a standard swing 12-bar with the short 4 at the top.
So, so you do want blues?
Yes.
Okay.
But jazzified, if you will, jazzified.
Okay. So
that's a great template. I love that.
So I'm just using a combination of G major 7, and then I barred the first 2 strings.
G major 9.
Yep, G major 9. F sharp augmented.
So let me, real quick, is that a tritone sub for the 4? In other words, that is essentially a C9 flat 5?
No, this isn't this is just a passing chord in the middle of the G. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Dominant 7.
Okay. Okay.
Then here's your C7.
Love that
F
position.
sharp 7, dominant. Here's your tritone sub.
Now, so am I right in thinking that's a C7 flat 5?
You could look at that as a, let's see.
With the flat 5 in the bass, obviously.
Yeah, you could. You could totally look at it like that.
Okay.
There's your G major 7.
G major 7. Okay.
Yep. E7.
All right, so hold on, pause. So now we're into the 1-6-2-5 turnaround. Is that what's happening here?
Yep.
Okay, gotcha.
Then
A minor 7 with the 7th in the bass. I like that.
Yep.
That's a mean chord there.
It's a D7 sharp 9.
A sharp 9. Very nice.
Yep.
I'll bet you that's really useful, that position right there.
Yeah, here's a G major 7 add 6.
Okay.
Yep. E7 sharp 9.
Love it.
A minor 7.
Okay.
E7 sharp 9 again. And then G sus 2 with the 6 in the bass.
And that's one of the chords I was hearing in the B part to Blackberry Blossom, which after we're done with this discussion, I'd like to cap off with that. But this is great. Let's keep mining this. Cool. That's gorgeous. So those are, is this chord substitution what's essentially happening here?
No, I'm just playing the chords without the bass note.
Expound on that. I don't understand the relevance of that.
The whole concept of playing in jazz is that the band makes the chord. So the bass is responsible for the bass note.
Okay.
And the banjo or the guitar, whatever you have, or the piano is responsible for the middle register.
Okay.
Right? And then the soloist plays over all the extensions.
Oh, they stay off the triad. They're just extensions.
Yeah, the 9s, 11s, and 13s.
Yeah.
Avoid a lot of those notes.
Okay.
So the way that's how you get that jazz sound when you're comping on those chords. You know, these chords. I'm not even thinking of what chord it is. I'm just thinking of how it follows the melody.
Oh, okay.
can totally do that chord. So you can play that D7 sharp 9 like this.
That's awesome.
Just like,
Ryan, can I point out something and see what your thoughts is on that? So when you have an altered dominant, in this case, a 7-flat-5 chord, it does something harmonically where it allows you to do circle of fours progressions with a descending chromatic pattern. So let me demonstrate that. So if I'm doing that voicing you just showed me at the 6th fret, that's E7 sharp 9. If I move down 1 fret, that's the A7 sharp 9. One more fret, that's D7 sharp 9. One more, that's G7 sharp 9. So it's when we're going down, it's ascending in fourths.
yeah.
How is that so mind-blowing? I don't, how? Why?
I couldn't answer that.
Have you noticed that? You found that out, I'm sure, right?
Yeah, there's a ton of tricks you can do with that 2-5-1 too. You can take that 2-5-1, right, and you can navigate it if you're playing over that. You can go E minor 7 pentatonic, F minor 7 pentatonic, F sharp.
Okay.
F sharp minor 7 pentatonic. It works both ways.
See, that's where I wish I understood why. I know that that's the case, but why you can play a descending chromatic chain of 7-flat-5s and it creates an ascending movement of fourths, to me, is quantum physics.
In a nutshell, when you're moving through these what would we like to call them? These patterns of relativity that are working in music theory, it just so happens that many of them cross and coincide, and notes in common end up being the extensions and color notes of these changes. As these go this way, and this goes, and that goes that way, they just kind of fit together.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's why jazz, to me, is like the chess of music, because nowhere else can I find that sort of open world possibility. You know, it's really wild.
It's really, I mean, the music grew to accommodate that too, to accommodate that freedom. You know, it's really cool like that. I mean, that's where the D7 sharp 9 came from. I mean, it's a beautiful chord. But that just throws a little bit of the diminished scale into your.
Yeah. That's beautiful. So Ryan, I would like to have you talk a little bit to how you then use those sophisticated voicings melodically over a solo sense. But before we do that, I want your thoughts on the theory that someone shared with me, some old living under a bridge jazz guy. And so if I'm playing dominant G7 voicings and I want to play outside the triad and hit 7s and 9s and 11s and 13s, I could just play out of my F major 7s. You know, wherever they occur. And so the formula could be, if I move a whole tone down from the key that we're playing over and do major 7 voicings, I will get the dominant extensions of that chord.
Yeah, and that's because the G7 is the 5th mode of a particular key, but the mode right before it is Lydian, and the chord that comes out of Lydian would be major 7. So wherever you play a dominant, the chord right in front of that in the diatonic sequence would be a Lydian chord. So that's just, you're just playing a harmony of the chord that's actually being played, but you're playing a harmony behind it.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. He called this common tone substitution, and I'm not sure where that fits into your matrix, but basically how I can use that then is if there is a dominant chord that I want to stay outside the triad. So once again, let's use that G7. It would be easier for me to just go find F major 7 voicings up the neck and play that way.
Yeah, when you learn a chord substitution concept on the banjo, that's typically how you want to do it.
Okay.
Yeah, you just want to practice that. Like wherever there's G7.
Yeah.
I just learned all the F major 7 chords. You know, you learn this one, this one, this one.
That's nice. That's nice.
That one. Let's see. Here's another one.
Okay.
Big one. You make it Lydian.
Okay. Oh, that would be a major 7 flat 5. Wow.
Yeah. But it's coming out of that F7, F major 7 Lydian. So that's just you're hitting the sharp 4 there, which is a flat. Yeah, it's a flat 5.
Wow. Or sharp 4. Yeah. Apples and oranges. Yeah. That's cool. Well, I like saying flat 5 because there was a flat 5th and a 5th floor flat at some point.
Exactly.
Not a sharp 4 in that flat. Yep. So can you speak for a minute to the idea of some of these very snazzy chords you showed me, and I'll certainly be adopting, like that sharp 9 chord and this partial major 7 chord. What's the best way I can get to start using those to create cool jazzy phrases melodically?
I'm mixing 2 schools of voicings here. So what I'm doing is I'm taking the G major 7 major and minor 7 chords. So just like your chords go.
Okay.
Right. I'm just adding, I'm doing a 1, a 3, a 5, and a 7 for each. So here's G major 7, A major 7.
Okay.
Sorry, A minor 7. G major 7, A minor 7, B minor 7, C major 7, D7, E minor 7, and for I'm just going to do F sharp minor 7 and G major 7.
Okay.
Right.
So
what
why
I
are
do
those so
then-
useful? Tell me why are those so useful?
They're all the jazz style chords that are in the key of G major.
Okay. But
So-
why wouldn't you just make them with all strings like this?
Because I don't want to strum them like you are.
Okay. Okay.
I want the chord to sound clear and not messy. And so I play 3 notes. Bela will tell you this too. But there, you also have 2 chords. If I stop playing the root and I decide to add a 9 to the top, then I can play those 3 strings.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, if I'm moving from here, sorry. I move up I take these 3 notes and I move them up 1 string.
Oh, that opens up the option for the chain of 9th chords right there.
Right.
I see that. Okay. Wow.
Right. And then there's also, I can play the bottom 2 strings and the 9. I can play the 1, the 3, and the 9. I have a G9 right there.
Okay.
I can just move my index finger to the B string and I have a G, a G, a major 7, and a 9.
That's slick. I like that.
So I have a bunch of different voicings right there. And those. That's why I don't play all 4 at once.
Let me show you all 4 at once not being strummed, just so you can tell me how I might adapt my technique. Because I've been doing this.
That's good too. That's good too. I would use that for soloing. Those for soloing. I mean, they're nice for arpeggiating stuff.
Okay.
Right, but these get a nice big wide chord, and that's why I like them. It just covers a lot of ground.
Yeah, I've never thought of that. You're staying mostly on the inside strings, which I like too. It's a softer sound. Yeah, it's punchier.
So I'm mixing that. You know, I will take that and find you know, and I mess with that and find melodies in it.
You did not just do that. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that's
Dueling Banjos, the PhD version.
right. Yeah, but there's all these melodies in there. I mean, you can find a lot of melodies if you just mess around with that.
Okay. So Ryan, now using these inside voiced chords, can you show me some examples of creating arpeggio licks or chord position based licks, melodic phrases off of those?
Yeah, you can totally go.
Love it.
I mean, it just gives you endless. This is just basic stuff. But
I like that. Well, not to me it is. This is quantum physics to me. I love it.
And so what I do is I take these, you know, there's a lot of voicings here, and you know, this sounds very classical jazz. But what I'm doing is I'm taking my G major pentatonic harmonized scale. Sorry.
Okay.
Those chord shapes. These are fourth stacks on the top three strings. And you can make a whole chord like this.
Okay, so these are fourth stacks. Let's speak to that for a minute. So that one you just showed me is E, A, D, and G. Obviously a fourth apart. E going to A going to D. So those, I'm very curious about those. How do I implement those into my jazz concepts?
You want to use that chord to kind of follow your melody, you know. Blackberry Blossom, but I'm paraphrasing the melody. I'm not actually playing the melody. I just kind of make with the other chords. So if I take that G major 7, I'm going up to the A there.
Okay.
Right.
So this right here, E what? What do you call that?
You would call that you could look at that as a G sus2 with a 6 on the bottom.
Okay.
These are chords without the bass note and without the root note, and you still look at that as a G.
It would have to be an E minor 11 or an E. If I think of it as an E, because I'm used to, but you're saying switch that over and analyze it from the top, right?
Analyze it from the top. It's just an inversion.
Okay.
You know, because you can play that backwards too. Backwards, it looks like this. This looks like a G sus2 with a 6 on the top.
Yeah,
all
I love that one. Yeah.
Moving the octave.
Yeah, I'll use that for rolls.
I'm just moving that string from the B string to the D string.
Yeah. Okay, so can you give me an example of some? Yeah. Can you show me some? Just blow over some imaginary changes using those forms for a minute, so I can see you use them melodically.
You know,
like that.
It just sounds like McCoy Tyner, but
right.
Now these are useful only if you mess around with them, but you know, to listen in context to the people who use these chords, like Herbie Hancock and McCoy Tyner and people like that. You know, this requires some study to put into place. And one lesson, it's impossible for me to give you all the jazz knowledge that I have to know where to put them. But what I can say is follow your intuition with the highest note that you're playing. So with this chord, you can play the bottom in where your D would be the note you're leading with, right? And so I'm looking at that as like an E minor 7 sus4.
Okay.
Right, where it's actually going to an F sharp 7 sus4, right? But if you look at it just pertaining to the note out of E minor, it looks like you're going from your flat 7 to your E minor 2. And so I use that.
Okay.
You know, you kind of have to like think more simply with your, you know, with your head, to paraphrase the melody. So what happens here is you can take this G major scale on top, right?
Okay.
And your harmony of it is right under it, so you can go.
Okay.
Right, minor. I'm playing E minor here, but. Right.
So on a rudimentary level, Ryan, check me on this. So I can think of the melody for Blackberry Blossom Bridge. And I'm going to go up here on the second string and think maybe something like, and I'm going to build those fourth chords under it. You know, and then I could jump up here for the B7. That's the 7 sharp 9 you showed me. And then back to... At a rudimentary level, is that what you were sort of doing?
At a rudimentary level, yeah. I mean, you're totally doing what I'm doing here. But you can take this, and instead of playing the first string, you have a whole harmony now if you play the same chords, but like with your middle finger on the B string leading being the highest note. You just leave the first note out. And then you can just... So you can move up a fourth in your... You see what I'm saying?
I think I do. Okay, so you're tying together...
it's the same concept we did with the G major 7 and A major 7. I'm playing the middle 3 strings. And there's 2 voicings in one.
Okay.
In one stack of fourths there. There's actually, you know, 2 harmonies. You can go up.
Okay.
In this one position, see...
Okay. Okay.
So I'm going over that one.
Oh,
You can play either or.
Okay.
Circle. Right.
That's nice. That's a great exercise. Can you show me that again slower? Do that dissension again slow, please.
Oh,
wow. That's wild.
It's all right hand.
What was the steps that you're moving down? How many frets?
I'm just doing the G major pentatonic scale. That's all I'm doing. So, yep. That's it. Yeah. So you can use that over the whole B section. You know.
That's nice.
And all I'm doing is I'll throw in a, you know, just to break it up, I'll throw in something with a third in it.
Okay, okay. I like that.
Those fourths make it real neutral. You know, they're all sus2s and sus4s. They make it real neutral sounding.
Yes.
You
Very
know,
floaty. Yeah, that's what I like
about it.
about
Play
it.
to your jazz friends, use those fourth stacks, you know, but if you want to like some normal people to understand something, you know, play a Wizard of Oz chord in there.
Okay, okay. And so if I'm playing around in E minor and I jump on that G major 9, that's actually creating the resultant of an E minor 11.
Yeah.
Okay.
It all depends on how you look at it and which direction the chord progression is moving. It depends on what you're going to call the chord. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. That's awesome. No, that's great. That's great information. So we talked about using those in a progression, a minor bass progression, like the B part to Blackberry Blossom. So can you give me just one time through, maybe like 2 reps of the B part to Blackberry Blossom, like you did in that other lesson, a little slower, so I can actually tab it out perhaps and pick it apart?
Yeah, I don't remember exactly what I did, but I
You were using those same voicings, yes. Nice.
That's probably what I do, just for a simple template, you know.
That's great. That's great.
This is very simple, you know, pentatonic stuff, but it just sounds really nice with the fourths. Makes them sound full on the banjo.
Yes, yes. Am I picking up on a message here that when you're harmonizing blocks of fourths, block fourth chords or whatever, you seem to use the scale underneath that's a pentatonic scale?
Yeah. Yep.
Like so.
That's what it is. Why so? Just because that's that sound, and that's, you know, you can't really. Simply because that's the sound I'm going for there.
Okay, I like it.
The fourth works really well with the pentatonic scale because it's basically, these are inversions of sus2 chords.
Okay,
you know, so
intervals. An exercise for me, Ryan, would be to basically harmonize my pentatonic scales with fourth chords.
That's the harmony of the pentatonic scale. The basic harmony of are the fourth chords.
Oh, interesting. Because when I've harmonized pentatonic scales before, I just was thinking in the same formula as like a jazz.
Oh, I see.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
Oh, yes. Well, I mean, well, man, I guess that's a harmonized voicing. You're right. I don't want to make any certainties here because there's quite a bit of possibilities with the pentatonic scale. But yes, I mean, you could do it a lot. We're leaving out intervals in the pentatonic scale. Essentially, you're leaving out the fourth and the major seven. So
okay.
You could just play your major scale chords and leave out the fourth and the major seven.
But that's not as interesting as what you're doing.
Yeah, this just sounds real.
Yeah.
There's something about those fourth stacks.
Yeah, I love them. I love them. And that's what I suspected you were doing. So I'm so glad we clarified this. Because I don't hear a lot of banjo players stacking fourths harmonically. It's not something
I think what this voicing kind of does is it sets up your lead note to be presented without clutter. You know.
Can you demonstrate that?
I mean, it just, if you're using the top note as a melody note, you just don't have you don't have the complexity of the third and the fifth together at the bottom. You have a neutral note. There's no major or minor note that's changing along with your melody. You can just keep it, and kind of keep it. It kind of presents it better with a less cluttered harmony behind it.
Okay. Yeah. That makes sense.
Because the intervals are so far apart,
Yeah. Okay. I think this has been a great session so far. I think the material there, now I can tab it out and I can chew it up because you presented it nice and slow. Could we conclude with a couple of examples of improvisation using these voicings, the pentatonic scale meeting the stacked fourths, the axis of the pentatonic scale and the stacked fourth, if you will?
Sure. I can do that with, you can, Autumn Leaves.
Perfect.
basically I'm trying to comp for my comping. I'm comping for myself.
Wild.
I'm doing right and left hand for piano there, so that's kind of what I'm trying to do. But I'm merging those two worlds.
Okay.
I'm merging your diatonic. That's just autumn leaves, how it goes in your diatonic. And then. But I'm doing stabs at your G major or E minor being the relative minor.
Yes. So essentially you could say you're playing chord melody banjo then, right?
Yeah, chord melody banjo. I'm just haven't copied anybody else. I'm just kind of using my own intuition here. Bill Keith would sound much more classical jazz than I would sound if he did this.
Okay.
His chords would look like that.
Yeah.
But instead of having the 4-note chords, I'm just, Bill probably. I'm just choosing to save some energy and jump around and make it sound more rhythmic. And kind of use that, what I showed you before. Kind of use that technique a little more. And this is something I don't get to use a whole lot, but with Bill Evans it did. I used this kind of stuff with rolls.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
And just try to keep a roll going. It's kind of where you go into Latin territory with it. It's kind of your only option when you're rolling over chords like that.
Yeah.
There's no you use your bluegrass technique and muscle memory, but you kind of got to go the Latin beat to kind of get the.
Good point. Yes, indeed. So my takeaway is that stacked fourths are awesome, and the root can be on the first string to outline the melody, and then also I can base them off a pentatonic scale, and I don't have to get the lateral voicings. I can get smaller voicings and hop back and forth between smaller voicings.
Yeah, and you're going to want to do that if you're using these harmonies in songs you already know, because you're not going to be able to do like a whole diatonic song in these fourth stacks because they're so conducive to the pentatonic scale. You know what I mean?
Okay.
It's really hard to do that and make the song recognizable.
Yeah.
So you're going to want to mix, basically what I've learned from jazz is you learn all this stuff and then you mix it together tastefully in the end. It's like making a dish.
Exactly.
You practice your fourths over here, you practice your diatonic scales over here, you practice your altered chords over here. And then then you practice mixing them. And you're going to make a bunch of shitty meals at first. I mean, that's just the way it goes.
That's great.
But it's the more listening, it's like speaking a language, the more listening to the real McCoy Tyner's playing that you do, or the more listening you do to Herbie Hancock. It's like if you're speaking Spanish, do you just want to read it out of a book and fake it while you speak it, or do you want to listen to Spanish radio all the time while you're learning how to speak Spanish?
Okay.
You want to listen to Spanish radio all the time.
Okay.
You want to hear the real dudes do it.
Yeah.
Instead of faking it. So that's how I do it. Yeah.
Okay. So that's why hit YouTube and hit McCoy Tyner and hit like Herbie Hancock and be hitting all those guys.
Yeah, because the other thing behind all this is the rhythm. The rhythm is really important in jazz. You're playing it wrong if you don't hear the Cuban stuff and the swing. you know, the rhythm is really important. And
True.
the easiest way to learn that is to hear them play. So
Yep. I love it. Awesome. Great session. Thank you so much.